what's up you guys? The Dark Knight are back with another video, and today we're taking a look at the Marvel Legends series, Secret Wars Retro Wave Daredevil. Before we get started, I guess guys, if you feel so inclined to please like and subscribe. It really does help my channel and is absolutely free. Take a look at the package over here, and we can see that this is a pretty different design than your average Marvel Legends figure. Now, I haven't reviewed a figure part of the Secret Wars Retro line on my YouTube channel as of yet, but over here we can see that this packaging is a pretty large, card back kind of packaging. So you got the big, plastic insert over here, which houses the figure and all of his accessories. So really nice presentation wise there. And, obviously it's based on the Secret Wars original action figure series. I think it was the Mattel line back when the original Secret Wars comic came out. And so there's an action figure line of all the different Marvel heroes and villains and such. So yeah, pretty cool. Marvel Legends series, Secret Wars, Daredevil. You got 4+ there along with Hasbro, and then nice big background of like a lightning bolt going through a cloudy sky. Marvel, you got the warning over there. And yeah, there's not really anything going on with the side or the top, the bottom there really, because it's just really a cardstock. So the back over here you got a whole bunch of information. So over here there's kind of like the instructions to the shield piece that it comes with, which you will take a look in the accessories segment. You got all the other figures you can collect to this wave. And I don't know, I feel like this is a pretty weak wave for Marvel Legends, at least in my opinion. Like, I think Falcon was a pretty good choice, Daredevil obviously, and then maybe Magic too. But I don't know, in my opinion, the three of these, they kind of could have gone with maybe some other characters. I don't know. So some Marvel characters we've been waiting on, like with Daredevil over here. But anyway, you got the Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars. You got Daredevil with the bio going on over here. So if you want to read it, you know, and pause it now. And then on this side here, you got Daredevil, but he's kind of not in the same look as he is in the figure form over here. We'll get into that. But you got Marvel at the top, and then a bunch of warnings, legalese at the bottom over here, along with the UPC code. All right, so Daredevil. This figure has been a long time in the making for me. I originally was starting to look for a comic book kind of Daredevil, I'd say probably since maybe 2021, maybe 2021, 2020-ish. That was back when the original Spider-Man retro card line came out. And I got the, I have it in storage somewhere. I have the original like Daredevil where he's in his kind of like black armored look. But my favorite in the comics has always been the classic red. And I feel like that's obvious to a lot of to a lot of, people who are a fan of Daredevil, as, that is the character's, most iconic look is in the red suit. So, there was a few years where, we got the Daredevil in the red on the Renew Your Vows body book that came in that 3-pack. But that was kind of, behind a Hasbro Pulse exclusive. And then we got another Daredevil with the same similar body book, but at least with my favorite, it had that sort of like Frank Miller kind of cel-shaded look, and that was locked behind a 2-pack at Hasbro Pulse. And so I was really close to getting that one. I feel like that Daredevil figure was my ideal Daredevil, just because I'm such a fan of the Frank Miller series. But, it was locked behind Hasbro Pulse, and, I live in Canada, and for, Canadians at the time, it was, expensive to get those figures from Hasbro Pulse as they're based out in the States. So when I did the calculation at the time, it was like $150 Canadian for, a 2-pack of Marvel Legends figures. And I was just like, I can't justify the price of that. Now, obviously, I waited, and you know how much that Daredevil is worth now. But yeah, now fast forward to today, we haven't really had a red suit Daredevil until then, and we get this Secret Wars Daredevil on a brand new body book. And if there's one thing I will say about this guy, I think that this body book is absolutely amazing. The only issue over here comes with the deco. And I know the deco, it's based off of the original Mattel figure where he had the black double Ds and the kind of like the lines going throughout the boots and, the gloves. But I'm just going to say flat off the bat over here, I'm not the biggest fan of that design, but I get it. I get why they did it over here. As for the accessories over here, I do think we get a pretty decent amount. We get all the basics over here when it comes to the billy clubs for Daredevil. He's got, these are more in the black style, obviously, representing what the look was in that original figure. But what's really cool about these billy clubs is that it comes with a little bit of a connector piece, and Marvel Legends has never done this before. And I think this is such a cool thing, but at the same time, it's like, this piece is rather small, and yeah, it's pretty easy to lose. So I would keep this in a pretty safe spot. But then other than that, he does come with his hands that hold the billy clubs, so that's great to get them. And then aside from that, the most annoying thing that Marvel Legends love to do nowadays is the one open hand for the right hand and the fisted hand for the left. This is the same thing we saw with the Born Again Marvel Legends figure. And then aside from those, you do get the shield piece that's based on the original Secret Wars toys figure line or whatever you want to call it. And it's a cool lenticular kind of, picture over here with Matt Murdock morphing into Daredevil whenever you move it. Yeah, this is pretty cool. You could have used the space for other accessories, but I think this is a great callback to it. Another I think is a really cool accessory over here is this sonar looking piece. And it has a little peg at the back of it, and you basically poured it in the back of Daredevil, and it looks like he's got the radar sensors going on from his head. What a cool accessory on Hasbro's behalf over here. Once again, I love how they're getting creative with some of these accessories, as I said in the past with some other figures. This is, we see it here again. All right, so having a look at the figure itself over here. And yeah, as I said, I think that the sculpting is fantastic on this. As far as I can tell, this is entirely a new sculpt for this Daredevil figure over here. And yeah, look at that head sculpt right there. It's not really comparing it to too much other than, representation in the comics, as the toy was pretty ugly looking in the past. But I do think this is a really good Daredevil head sculpt over here. Yeah, just really, really awesome. You got the double Ds over here, and these are in black, obviously, trying to mimic that appearance from that original Mattel toy. But yeah, I kind of prefer, it be more of like a dark red. But for the purposes of this, I do think it looks pretty good. You got that peg hole over there for the sonar effect. Yeah, the biceps over here too look pretty good. You got some wrinkles going all throughout the figure, which I think is really nice. Kind of, with Marvel Legends, they always like to do the same body buck, and usually it just looks like a muscular kind of body. I'm kind of glad this is more specific to Daredevil over here, but you can see that one black stripe going on over there. And the gloves here too look pretty decent. It's really bland all throughout, but that kind of is how Daredevil kind of goes with his red look. It's a very plain looking superhero costume, but yeah, you got the belt here too with this sort of silver pieces. You got actually a bit of a trouser kind of look going on in the bottom over here, which I think is really nice. I'm pretty sure that is accurate to the comics. He does have trunks in some iterations, so I think that is pretty accurate there. He's got his holder here for the billy clubs, and you just put them in like so, and it holds it pretty well. So that looks pretty good. And you can even see they kind of sculpted in the straps over here to help hold it onto his leg. So I'm really glad to see that as well too. This very much does seem like a specific a Daredevil specific kind of sculpt going on over here. So I wonder if we're going to see more figures down the line with it. But we can see the boots over here. We got that same, solid line, plain looking paint deco going on over here. And then obviously with the feet, you can see that it comes with 2 peg holes. As for articulation, as I said, this is a new sculpt as far as I can tell. So this will be interesting. Head can move up very far. Look at that. That's really good. You can move it down about there. That's also really good. Get some nice brooding poses in there. It can move side to side. There's a little bit of pivot, but I would have liked to see a little bit more than that. The arms, they can't go all the way down. This is as far down as it can go right there. So that kind of sucks, but it can go up like that there, and yeah, not really a lot there. I don't know what's going on with that arm, but it can go in and out with a butterfly joint, so that's pretty nice. It can go up, down, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows like that there. You do have some wrist articulation, which is a swivel and a hinge, and then that's for the sort of like sprawled out hand and fisted hand. For these billy club grabbing hands over here, it does move side to side, so just a note on that there. You got a diaphragm joint in here, which can move all the way around 360, so you can get some nice poses out of that. Move them down, move them back, or to pivot over there, pivot over there. And then you do get an ab crunch as well too. So if you wanted to get both of them in, look at that. You can get some really nice poses there. Go back all the way like that too, as if, you know, Kingpin just punched him out. But anyway, you do get some leg articulation, obviously, so kick forward up about there. You can kick back a little bit on an angle. You can do the splits. I wouldn't suggest doing it with the billy clubs in here, so I'm just going to pull them out. You can do the splits around there, and then he does have some thigh swivel action going on over there, and as I said here, with this one, it's kind of hidden in with the strap piece going from the billy club holder, so that's pretty nice. And then he does have double jointed knees going to about there, and then some ankle, or actually, sorry, I forgot about this, a boot rotation as well too. You can see it kind of does break up the sculpting a little bit there, but you know, I'm glad they added it. Helps with you know, getting him to stand. He can kick up about there with the foot and kick down like that, and he does have a pivot. As for comparison today, I do have Daredevil next to his MCU counterpart over here with the Born Again figure and my favorite Spider-Man figure, the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man. And yeah, so one of the issues I think a lot of people are going to find with this figure is the scale. And here, I don't know, I like maybe some people like to see, you know, their Daredevils a little bit short, but you know, considering the fact that he's even shorter than the movie figures, and the movie figures are known to be, you know, a bit shorter than the typical Marvel Legends. I don't know if that's a great sign. Yeah, if you want to compare this figure to some figures that you have at home, you can see over here they does stand just about 6 inches tall. So final thoughts on this Daredevil action figure over here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit mixed with this one. I kind of, you know, I bought it knowing what I was going to get into over here, but obviously, you know, I've been waiting a long time to get a red suit Daredevil. And does this really, you know, fulfill that itch, you know, that I've been waiting for, you know, so patiently? I don't know. I think that the sculpting on this figure is really nice, and I like the fact that it's got in all the wrinkles and doesn't look like it's like a plain like Marvel Legends bodybook. They actually took some consideration to making this a Daredevil specific bodybook. But yeah, the scaling, I don't know if the scaling is the greatest for me. 6 inches is what it is, and you know, maybe you can get some, at least like for me, I picture Daredevil being taller or like the same height as Spider-Man, and yet with this scaling, as I showed you with the Renew Your Vows body buck, he was a little bit shorter, but you know, that body buck is kind of known to be a bit taller, so maybe there isn't too much of an issue there. I just, you know, that is something to take note of if you guys are, you know, looking to get this figure. But there's that, and then there's also the deco with this figure. Now, the deco I'm not the biggest fan of. I know that it's supposed to be based on the Mattel figure, but you know, they've kind of cheated figures in the past. I I feel like they could have done it here just because we've been waiting for a retro card, you know, red suit Daredevil for so long, but it is what it is. It's a cool style. Like I kind of like, you know, the interpretation of having, you know, the black highlights throughout it. It kind of, you know, creates a bit of a difference in the red, but maybe too much. It does look a little too toyish in my opinion, but obviously I guess that's what it's supposed to achieve as it is based on that original, you know, action figure from way back when. Otherwise, accessories are, you know, decent. It's kind of what we've been seeing before. I think I would have liked a Matt Murdock head with this maybe, and you know, obviously in equal pairs of hands, you know, having, you know, a sprawled out hand for the left hand and a fisted hand for the right. That would have been nice, but it seems like that's the common occurrence when it comes to the Marvel Legends figures nowadays. But I do really like the new sonar accessory piece. That is a very innovative and creative thing from Hasbro, and you know, I'm really happy to be seeing those creative, you know, additions. As I've said with multiple other figures, you're seeing it here once again. So really, where I end off with this figure over here is a want for a different deco for this. I don't know, like I might try to customize this. If you guys have any suggestions on that, let me know in the comments down below. But as it is right now, like this figure is so close to being the perfect red suited Daredevil. It's just that stupid deco for that original Mattel figure. And I feel like that's the same thing for, you know, many other collectors out there. So with that being said, yeah, if I were to give this figure a rating, I would probably stick with an 8 out of 10, if I'm being completely honest. Like just for what it represents over here, being at the price point of, you know, around, I think it's like $25 US, but I got this around $35 Canadian. I do think that this is a pretty decent figure from Hasbro. Just I'm waiting. I'm waiting for that perfect, you know, comic accurate Daredevil red suit. and they have all the elements that they need over here. They just need to do a bit of a different paint job. I'm really excited to see what the community comes up with, what they're able to achieve with this body book. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you like this figure? Do you like my review? And as every YouTuber begs you to do, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.